Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'm here to host this panel presentation today on strategies to evaluate and select the right Microsoft partner. We're going to be talking about, in this expert panel, really the role of the Microsoft partner throughout your digital transformation journey, project planning and budgeting, design and implementation, training and user adoption, planning for your future, and working with ISVs. And finally, we're going to talk about where you can find the right partner to best fit your project and organization. So we've got a great panel today. So why don't we kick things off by introducing our panel? Nancy, we'll start with you. And can you tell the folks who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me. I'm always happy to share my experience about being a Dynamics partner. I've worked in the Microsoft channel for quite a long time. I've worked for small partners, large partners, even ISVs. And I work for a company called Avanade, where we focus on the Microsoft technology. Avanade is a large global system integrator owned by both Microsoft and Accenture. And with a global practice, we have a global center of excellence that covers all parts of the Microsoft platform. So we have specialists in Azure, Office, Teams, Power Platform, and of course, Dynamics. Now, my team specifically in the COE is focused on Dynamics 365 customer engagement, and we do three things. We work with clients where we bring innovation, thought leadership, and help them unlock the most value from their Microsoft investment. It's often anchored, but not necessarily limited to Dynamics 365. Also, we work with people. We work with our consulting practice. We provide them ongoing learning to keep their talent and skills up to date and provide them with best practice around how to deliver successfully at clients. And finally, we try to solve gaps in the market with quality accelerators. So we build product-like solutions that fill gaps that we see across our clients to improve pricing and time to market for the clients. So that's me, that's Avanade.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. AJ, let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Rick. Hi, everybody. I'm AJ Ansari. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and a partner at DSWI. DSWI, we're a Microsoft partner that serves the small and medium business industry and the lower end of the mid-market. We focus on manufacturers, more specifically discrete manufacturers with an industrial equipment type of focus. And then we also target oil and gas companies in the midstream. We've had a lot of success with implementing ERP solutions like Dynamics 365 Business Central. In fact, we've been doing that since about 2006. We also have an emerging practice in the area of all sorts of Power Platform applications. A little bit more forward, I think we are in Power BI than we are with Power Apps and Power Platform. Individually, I'm also a Microsoft MVP like you, Rick. My focus, of course, being on Business Central within the larger Dynamics 365 and business applications umbrella. And I'm also the chapter president for the Houston chapter of IAMCP, which is the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, and a delegate to the Americas Board. So excited to be here, and a big thank you to DynamicsCon and to Microsoft for having me on this panel today.
Hey, AJ, thank you. And, for our viewers today, I think we've got a great sort of cross-section of people because Nancy works for a large enterprise partner. AJ, that SMB mid-market. And of course, we've got Jay from Microsoft. Jay, introduce yourself and tell the people what you do.
Thanks, Rick. My name's Jay Curry, and on behalf of Microsoft, I want to thank you all for allowing me to participate today. And I certainly echo AJ and Nancy's comments about the opportunity here. I run our North American business sales and segment leadership team for all of the marketing and operations team. What that means is we help with go-to-market strategies, field enablement in Microsoft with business applications. I've been selling business applications, though, for 25 years. I've been at Microsoft for about 15 in various field sales leadership roles. And before that, I was in the partner channel helping customers understand the value of both Microsoft and the partner community.
Okay, Jay, and thanks for joining us today. And I really like the experience that you have with Microsoft and with the partner channel. So we're going to stick with Jay for the first question. And Jay, let's talk about how Microsoft supports and develops its partner ecosystem, especially when it comes to business application partners around ERP, CRM, and the modern workplace.
Yeah, so it's no secret that Microsoft's business is built on the strength and power of our partner ecosystem. And so when you look at, and you touched upon it earlier, Rick, when you look at the breadth of the opportunity that is there, both in the small and medium sized business and in the enterprise, we really need that depth and strength of partnership to be able to deliver that. And so what we're doing is we're constantly looking for opportunities where we can continue to partner and invest in strategic opportunities where it's both beneficial for not only the customer, but also the partner as they continue to develop and drive the key opportunities within that market for Microsoft and for their individual businesses.
Okay, thanks, Jay. We're going to go to you next, AJ. You're a Microsoft MVP, as you said, and community advocate for the user group and an IAMCP leader. Tell us how all these things come together to really help you support a customer.
Good question, Rick. So let's start with the IMCP, among other facets, and one by one, I'll get to each one of those and how I think they help inform me and then help us as an organization be a better partner to our clients and to our prospects. At IAMCP, which is again the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, which can be a mouthful. One of the great things about that organization is that I'd like to call it the digital Moses for Microsoft partners who are not managed, or partners who are digitally managed, because there are a lot of things that are going on at the partner program level through Microsoft, and it's really hard to keep up with all of that. As a managed partner, which when I was a previous organization and also earlier at DSWI, when we were managed partner, we would have a direct point of interface that would be our PDM, and we would get a lot of information through them. But as we converted to a digitally managed partner, we realized the information still comes through from Microsoft, but sometimes we need somebody to be able to explain or to have a town hall, a forum of sorts, to be able to bounce ideas back and forth and ensure that we are ready as a partner to then take that message to our clients, to make sure we're enabling our clients and our prospects in the best way possible. I think IMCP has done a phenomenal job of helping partners do that. So as a chapter president, I think it falls upon me and it falls upon other chapter presidents to make sure that our community is involved, and at the Americas and the worldwide level, they're doing a phenomenal job to make sure that the chapters in turn are duly informed of what they need to pass down to trickle down to other partners. So that's one facet of it, and I'm very passionate about IMCP. Heck, we could talk in a whole hour about that. As a Microsoft MVP, that's a really interesting one. Sometimes as an MVP, you hear about things long before they're about to come in through these things that are called PGI meetings, right? But it's all under NDA. And what's really exciting is you get real excited about what's about to come down the pipeline, but you can't talk about it. But the beauty of it and the novelty is, the beauty of it, I guess, is that Microsoft does do quite a bit to adequately prepare us so that when these new features roll out, when the new technologies roll out, we can be evangelists, which is what most MVPs are. And Rick, I'm sure you'd agree with that statement. We can be ready to evangelize the community on all these great things that are coming and help our customers, our partner community, our prospects, the entire community be ready for these changes again. And so if you're sensing a theme about readiness and enablement and all those are things I'm passionate about. And I think through IMCP and as a Microsoft MVP, those are I think both of those avenues really help me be a better person and a better partner for our clients. And then lastly, as
AJ, if I can just stop you there too, I think both of those areas that you talked about, through the Microsoft Channel Partners Association and through an MVP, if I'm looking for a partner, I think that's important because I know I'm dealing with somebody who's well educated, up to date, and really part of that partner ecosystem. So you see what's coming down the pike, right? And you can help customers prepare for the future, I think, better than the average SMB partner.
Agreed. I'll probably just add one more thing, and then you don't want me talking for the entire duration of this panel on one topic. I'll just say, and we're going to talk about how you pick a partner later, but as a precursor to that question, find a partner who's enthusiastic and who's really all about that partner channel, all about Microsoft and the products and the technologies that they're working with. So I feel like at a personal level and as a partner, that is something we try really hard to do for our clients.
Okay, thank you very much, AJ. And Nancy, I'm going to go to you next. Nancy, you're an executive leader with Avanade at the Global Center of Excellence for Dynamics. Tell us about that center and how it helps you support your customers.
Sure thing, Rick. I mentioned at the outset in my intro that we look at innovation for clients, we look at our people, we look at accelerators, those types of things. What we also do, I guess, which is probably more niche to enterprise, although we serve the top end of the SMB, what I've seen as difference from when I worked for smaller organizations is the complexity factor is a bit different. It's not to say smaller organizations in the SMB have less complexity. It's just typical that the enterprise have more complexity. So one of the things that our clients look for us to do is to help them solve that complexity. You know, it might be something like taking a large on-prem CRM. We have a client right now, 3 terabytes of data that they need to move to online. It's not insignificant. And they, as an organization, are used to having access to the SQL tools, which now they're not going to have access to. So helping them understand what their new life is going to be like. It might be looking at something where they've already implemented Dynamics 365 for sales and they're planning the roadmap. How do I use other parts of the system? How do I take in customer service, all the while planning for field service? You know, we can provide that holistic view, given that we work in all of those areas of Dynamics. Another area of complexity often comes in the nature of the integrations. When we're integrating with ERP, F&O specifically, we might use something like DualWrite. We would also look at, with other solutions, Logic Apps, Power Automate, Azure Data Factory, all of these different pieces of technology. How do we bring them together in a cost-effective way to deliver quality? I've been, in Dynamics for many, many years, and what I'm seeing a trend to is more clients wanting to unlock the value. I think, AJ, you were talking about it. Like there's so much coming down the pipe. How do you keep your clients current, right? And one of the ways that we do that, although we have many MVPs that we work with to leverage some of their insights. We also work directly with the Microsoft Fast Track team to help look at complex scenarios. We recently initiated a portfolio management work. And if you're not familiar with Fast Track, they work in some of the larger enterprise organizations. And they have a methodology called Success by Design. So we work really well with Fast Track because our methodology at Avanade is fundamentally aligned with Fast Track. So if we need to collaborate and work together, we have the same framework in mind and the same terminology. Now, we also work really closely with the engineering teams. So on the Dynamics customer engagement platform, we're working with the sales marketing lead. We're working with the digital contact center platform that just launched last July. We're at the forefront working with the engineering team, try to solve their problems that they might be having in market. And we're certainly continuing to help them evolve the service operations and field service piece of it. So, we work with Fast Track, we work with engineering, and I do not want to forget to mention that we work a lot with the Microsoft customer success teams. And, thank you so much for putting on this event, and we're all in it together to drive success for our clients.
So Nancy, it sounds like you take a lot of the risk out of some of the heavy lifting that our clients need to do.
Absolutely. And we're very transparent with any risks that we see and mitigation plans. We often come with successful credentials and references and knowledge from other projects that we've done. We've in fact turned, I talked about the talent and the learning. We've initiated a program where we're harvesting from the projects that we've done in the past, a learning series for our consultants to learn from other programs across the globe so that they essentially evolve to being trusted advisors and knowledgeable, hitting the ground running in all industries because they can pull up this learning series as they mobilize on a project. to, again, help deliver success. So absolutely, we're de-risking the program.
Okay, great. Jay, do you have any comments from what AJ and Nancy just said?
Yeah, I think both of them touched on some great points when you think about the partner ecosystem. Certainly having access to Fast Track is excellent. Certainly having the capabilities of an MVP and being part of a chapter is huge, because there's a lot of partners out there that really know how to implement technology. But that's not all that we do. Our products aren't perfect. Our customers aren't perfect. Those processes have to be matched up to the capabilities of the software. And when you are working with a partner that knows not only where to go find the answer inside the four walls of Microsoft, but also is able to kind of fast track, pun intended, to be able to get some of that stuff, those answers more quickly, those direct connections are huge when you're thinking about like what my next partner might look like. Nancy touched upon the CSU as well, a customer success unit that we have. And that is about, being able to handle the change, because with any technology implementation, it's not just about turning on the bits and bytes. It's also about being able to address the change. And I think that those are great opportunities for all the partners and the Microsoft to work together to the best benefit of the customer.
And I've got to agree with you, Jay. And I think, with the two partners we have here today, you can really see that, maybe Nancy has a center of excellence, but AJ runs his own center of excellence, right from, maybe a 5-user system all the way up to Nancy with maybe a 5,000 user system. So, this Microsoft network of partners is, I think, really prepared to help customers of all sizes. So that leads us to our next question, and we're going to start with you, Nancy. Let's look at working together with customers on their project. What is the role of the Microsoft partner throughout this digital transformation journey? And let's talk a little bit about at the beginning. Why do you need a partner to help you with project planning and budgeting?
So all parts of the journey towards success at a project are important. Planning and budgeting, though, if you don't get out on the right foot, can often cause all kinds of problems for you down the road. I'm a certified project management professional, a PMP, and I've managed many projects in my 30 years. And I've been asked to recover projects over the years, and it's regardless of size of partner. Like it just happens. And I want to say that the root cause, in my experience, is often sourced from a couple of key things. So think about the amount of planning that you do at the beginning around the product feature scope and the product activity scope. Both of those things are key. Sometimes clients want to put too many features in, and they don't necessarily drive value at the outset. They're doing it because they need, they want to try and do something big and bulky. Try to get it as small as you can and try to drive value. Maybe it's driving some operating cost savings so that you can take that and in turn fund the next sprint of your program. Project activity scope, plan for the end. I see people who go into detail in the first few phases. They might plan design and workshops and how I'm going to build this, but they don't think about the full testing cycle and regression testing. They don't think about user adoption. I've seen clients, they don't even have cutover plans. Like they've really, not even a strategy for how they're going to do it. It's just, causes all kinds of downstream issues. The second sort of umbrella item that I'd like to share is around the involvement of client and IT organization. Now, you may be clients out there and you've pitched it internally. That's fine. Or you may be a partner who's come in and pitched it. Whichever way it is, there's going to be a need to have the client and IT likely participate in the program, and being very, very clear on what the expectation is, on what their role is going to be. If you're familiar with a RACI chart, responsible, accountable, make sure people know when things need to be done, what needs to, and what level of quality. I've seen clients who take on data migration scope and they say, oh yeah, well, we did it, but what they gave to the partner wouldn't pass test. So then they got to go back and iterate again. So planning all these things out, to me, super important to get off on the right foot.
And I think you hit on something there, Nancy. I don't think people spend enough time planning around the data. And, it's been my experience in, my 20 odd years of CRM uh, work is that, you get to a point and we're all waiting for the data and we've got to play really catch up with that data to get it into, the right shape to really move to that next level. Okay, AJ, any comments?
So I'll add maybe one aspect that comes to mind. I think it's really important during the planning phase to also have a participation from two very distinct and opposite levels of the client. On the one hand, you want to have an executive level sponsor that can help be sometimes a cheerleader, can kind of do the carrot and the stick at different times to make sure that the team is willing and ready to accept the changes that are about to come in and do whatever it takes within their culture. Every organization has a different culture, and they have different ways of getting folks on board. So whatever it takes to help get those changes stream downhill. The other thing that also I think is important during the planning phase is getting the folks, the subject matter experts who sometimes live in the trenches and are not part of the original project discovery. Because you'll find managers and directors have a good view of how things work in the organization, but are often, kept away from or insulated from some of the very specific things and practices that happen all the way down in the trenches. Now, that can rear its ugly head a lot later in the project if those are not uncovered. That can often be a reason why you end up with a budget that is inadequate, doesn't account for some of those things that are being done. Obviously, through some of these discovery and workshop activities that happen around this point in the project, you'll also uncover which things actually need to be done, right? Which are redundant aspects. So some of that comes into the design aspect as well. But I do think having participation from some different and some key stakeholders at different ends, but most importantly from the executive sponsorship side, I think that's so critical, especially as you're going into that mid-market and enterprise level projects, right? Maybe not so much if you're just doing some SMB prescriptive deployments. That may not always be necessary.
And, this is really interesting what you're saying, AJ, because, my experience is mostly around CRM and mostly around Salesforce automation projects. And I'd always start project off by sitting with the team saying, okay, who owns this project? And everybody would turn and look at the IT director, right? And I said, no, the IT director does not own the project. He owns the delivery of the project. Who owns the outcomes? And really, I think what you hit on there is really important. We find somebody from the business who owns this project. I'm going to hand it over to you, Jay, because I'm sure you're involved with planning and budgeting around our customers' projects.
Yeah, and I would echo a lot of the things that AJ and Nancy touched upon. I think the biggest piece that we run into when you're thinking about the planning of a project is it's the expectations. And so the end game, you talked about the IT director being looked at as the person that owns the project. When you think about the end game, it's not about just I turned on a successful system. It's about the adoption, it's about the training, it's about the usage after the fact. And so when you're talking about planning and project budgeting and things like that, Microsoft will always look at opportunities for us to invest with our partners on how to make our customers even more successful. But when you're thinking about that, don't forget about what happens after you throw the switch. Because if people aren't going to, embrace and adopt and really use the capabilities, then that was just a successful deployment. It wasn't a successful project. And that has to be spelled out at the front end.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jay. So on the design and implementation phase, AJ, why is it important to work with a partner?
So this is going to be an area I really enjoy talking about because I've come through different ranks in my career. I've come through as an implementer. I've been a consultant from an industrial standpoint. I've been a practice leader, and so on. And so at different points in the journey, I think you get a real sense of appreciation of the value you're able to provide to your clients who are embarking on these large and sometimes complex implementations, as Nancy pointed out. So I think when you're working with a partner, you sometimes get access not just to somebody who knows the ERP system or the CRM system at a functional level in ways of how one thing that you do can have a domino effect, a knock-on effect on other aspects of the system, right? All the dependencies and the tie-ins and why a little decision can sometimes be so critical. But with the right partner, you're also going to find somebody who has industry level expertise who can tell you what other peers of certain size of a size that they are doing to be more successful. I think if your ultimate goal out of implementation of a new ERP system is to just have a system that does everything that the old system does in a cloud-enabled environment, then you're missing the point. I think some companies do at times just approach that. They find someone who only knows the product. But if you're finding somebody who can help you identify, isolate, and then improve processes that you're doing so that you're getting more done with less. Some of this could be within the ERP system, some of this could be outside of it. And then also giving you the right type of help to configure your system in a meaningful way that will work well for you for the next 5 or 10 years. And of course, in due time, you may need to reconfigure certain things as your business grows and your business needs change. I think as a partner at DSWI, that's one of the things that we stress to our team, that you are not just ERP implementers, you are business consultants, and you should behave as such. Now, everybody can't be a business consultant. We have folks that we hire straight out of college. They are learning the ERP system. They're associates. They're learning how the system works. Then we have certain folks who are just extremely knowledgeable about all areas of the Business Central system that we sell and implement, Dynamics 365 Business Central. And then we have folks who are very knowledgeable in the various industries that we focus on. And I think that's so critical from a design perspective, making sure the design's not just about the switches you're going to turn and the boxes you're going to check, but about a more holistic approach and a larger approach. Again, as an organization that targets both SMB clients, sometimes, as you mentioned, Rick, as few as 5 users, or all the way up to the mid-market. Our largest customer has over 235 full users and about another 60 or 70 team member users. And so we have to make sure that we're using the right approach for the right client, that we can't be a one-size-fits-all approach that we take. And then from an implementation standpoint, I do think that you have to have a tried and a tested approach to implementation. It doesn't always work as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step. You have to account for some of the hiccups that are going to come along the way, sequencing your steps right, but also accounting for Murphy's Law and all the things that come on. So I think the most important thing is, as a partner, if you're working with a partner, and this is to end customers who are watching, you are going to have added cost, certainly, that you could possibly avoid if you simply work with one consultant that's working on your team, but then you're getting a lot of benefits for that added cost, whether it's in increased availability, a lot of know-how and the experience. As a final thought, if somebody hasn't looked at a study, I believe it was by Standish Group or by Deloitte, where folks were queried before an implementation about 10 points, to rank 10 points, the order of preference in which I think they would decide or pick a partner. And then they were asked to rank that again about a year or two after the implementation was done. You'll quickly find the knowledge of the partner and those types of things start to rise higher above the perceived cost of implementation. If there is an interest in that, feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to share that study with you. Regretfully, I don't have the details exactly as much as I wanted to right on this call.
So now let's look at working together with customers and partners on projects. What is the role of the Microsoft partner throughout the journey? And let's start with project planning and budgeting. And we'll start with you, Nancy.
Although all parts of a project journey are very important, planning and budgeting, if you don't get started on the right foot, you're going to have potential for missteps along the way. I've been 30 years in the business and delivered many projects. I'm a certified project management professional, and I've been asked to come in to recover many projects over the years. And I don't want to say that this is any size of partner. It can just happen if you don't do planning right. The root cause is often sourced from a couple of things. First thing is the amount of planning done around the feature set and the activity set within a project. If you try to do too much in terms of scope, you're just doing too much. You need to pick the features that are going to drive value and that you can implement to achieve cost reduction or whatever you need to fund the rest of the project. So try to keep it, concise. The activity scope is, think about how much you want to do for training, how much you want to do for adoption, how much you want to do for go live. You got to think about those things at the end, not just the immediate next steps. That will serve you well. Now, I mean, that may seem very obvious, but I find this happens again and again. And you know what? There's ways to mitigate the risks. Make sure you do good planning.
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy. And for our viewers, if you have any questions for Nancy, AJ, or Jay, please put them in the Q&A box. And we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. And I got to tell you, if you got any questions about project management, you got Nancy Calder here, and I've personally worked under Nancy on a project, and she knows her stuff. Okay. Our next
Thanks,
phase,
Rick.
design and implementation. Over to you, AJ.
To answer your question, Rick, I come from a background as a functional implementer, or a functional consultant. I started with in that role, as an implementer. As I kind of grew in my career, I was also a practice leader, and then did some pre-sales management as well. And so I have a real appreciation for the importance of proper design. I think a customer can certainly try to implement a small project by themselves. I think there are some great things that Microsoft's been adding in the SMB Dynamics 365 product that is Business Central around onboarding, self-onboarding. But I think if you're doing anything more than just a prescriptive deployment of Business Central for a very small organization, there is going to be a lot of lost opportunity for improvement of processes, for configuring your system in the best possible way for the best possible outcome. The right partner is going to bring a lot of expertise, not just in the area of how Business Central or an ERP system works or a CRM system works, but also oftentimes in the industry that they specialize in. I mentioned in my introduction that we are specialists in manufacturing and in the oil and gas space. So if you're doing field service management or project accounting or manufacturing, we bring so much more to that table. And your partner in whatever industry you're in, pick the right partner, and you'll find that they'll be able to tell you what peers of companies your size and your industry are doing for as best practices. Right? They will be able to help you help inform you on making the right choices. If all you're doing is just putting in a brand new system that's maybe cloud ready to replace an old system that might have been on a DOS screen, that's a lot of lost opportunity. I think this is the time to focus on people and process and not just the product. So the 3 Ps that oftentimes we talk to our customers about. We at DSWI stress to our team members that you got to think of yourselves as business consultants and not just as implementers. And that's a value that a good partner can bring. So the design process is very important. That's where you're uncovering so much of what that finished product is going to look like. And I think to get the right scope and not to under or to over scope, you need to have somebody who's done it a few times. So I think that's important. And then, of course, from an implementation side, having the right partner helps ensure that you're doing things in the correct order, so that you're doing it the right the first time. I think in a pre-conversation, Rick, you mentioned that, right? Doing it right the first time, and that is so important because otherwise you might think you've spent less money or the budget was smaller, but at the end you're going to pay a lot more because you're having to do things over and over and over again.
Okay, AJ, thank you. So Jay, the last piece we're going to talk about here when it comes to, working with a partner or working with Microsoft around training and user adoption, which is very near and dear to my Salesforce automation experience. How do we make sure that, we're going to implement this application? We're going to get the CRM right. We've got your processes in place. Now, how do we get the people to enjoy using it?
Yeah, and I think Nancy and AJ both touched on this when they were talking about the planning and then also the design and implementation. If you're not planning for what the end state looks like, if you're not designing what the end state's going to look like, all you're doing, to the point that AJ just made, is you're just replacing old technology with new technology without getting the benefit that you're looking to achieve. I think the biggest thing that when we think about like both at that planning phase and then also picking that right partner is the end game is not about deploying the technology. It's about actually achieving the value out of what's being deployed. And so when you talk about user adoption and you talk about training, like don't skimp on that, right? When we think about the place where you need to invest in from a budget perspective, typically in my experience, especially when I was in the partner channel, is like, oh, we'll worry about training later because there's going to be a power user that's going to help everybody else do it. And that person doesn't want to. And that's not an enterprise-wide capability. That's a point solution. And so what we need to make sure is when we're really thinking about deploying this capability, about digital transformation, that starts and ends with what that adoption looks like. I've seen stats where it says like 92% of projects aren't achieving the value that they were originally thought they would. And it's all about the change management piece. It's all about the adoption. They had great design. They were on budget. It was a great implementation, but they forgot the last mile. And I think that's where we got to be focused on. And that's why we have success units within Microsoft to achieve that.
Yeah, and I think having the sort of right plan around how we're going to train people and how we're going to achieve this user adoption is really important. And if we go back to Nancy talking about the project plan earlier, many times I'll walk into a project and say, okay, let's look at the project plan. And there'll be one line at the bottom of project plan. We're going to train the trainer, right? Whatever that meant. So I think companies are finally starting to pay more attention to this. So Jay, we're going to come back to you and let's talk to the customers out there about how do I find the right partner that fits my type of organization and my type of project?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you the pithy answer and say, go search on Microsoft.com and they'll connect you to the partner network and you'll be able to go and find that. And that's true, right? But that only will give you a little bit of the ecosystem that's out there. I think customers really need to talk to their peer group, right? Certainly events like this allow us to talk to each other about that. But more importantly, when you're talking about how do I find the right partner, you got to make sure you're asking the right questions. It's not just about, we've talked a lot, it's not just about the implementation of the technology. Look, in my experience at both Microsoft and in the partner channel, and I'm sure AJ and Nancy would probably say the same thing, projects will go sideways. Our technology is not perfect. The process doesn't map to some of those things. There's personality conflicts. You've got to make sure that you're talking about all that. And the great partners are the ones that can adapt to solve for those problems in flight, as opposed to allowing everything to go off the rails. And so the biggest piece is that when you're looking for that right partner, make sure you're talking to the people that have used it before. Word of mouth is great, but when you have a referenced ability to be able to say, hey, go talk to the person that looks and feels just like I do, because we did great work for them, that's going to be the partner that's going to help you. And when the partners are telling you that, oh, I've done this 1,000 times, it's so easy. Yeah, that's true, except they've done it 1,000 times, which means that they know where the gotchas are and they're able to kind of adapt to where those gotchas are going to be. Like I said, we're not perfect. Our products aren't perfect, but our partners are the ones that make them perfect.
Okay, thank you, Jay. AJ, any comments on how to find the right partner?
Sure. So I believe this was a study done by the Standish Group. I could certainly go back and confirm if it was them or Deloitte, but they had customers that went through implementations, rank partners or rank how they chose or how they would choose essentially the first time around a partner best in 10, by ranking 10 different parameters or aspects. And then they had them re-rank them about a couple years after they went live. And the first time around, no surprise at all, a lot of customers, a lot of businesses were really focusing on the price aspect because you're trying to get more done with less. But coming back on the other side, you'll find that while it remains a top 5 metric, there are other values that surface much higher, one of them being the experience or the knowledge of the partner. I do think that is really important. But having done this for many years, I've also realized certain other things. Every business, we heard the word outcomes a couple of times in this panel. Whatever your goal and whatever your goals are, you have to map them to the outcome. If your goal is truly to get on a new system by spending as less as possible, find partners who focus on rapid deployments, who have some methodology and some expertise in getting them done in a prescriptive manner, but then also be realistic. Make sure that you're not asking for all the bells and whistles when you're trying to get this done at the lowest possible cost. You're going to have to adapt and choose some shortcuts and make sure that you're following the process that's been outlined by your partner. If you have some very complex and specific needs, you're in a unique industry, find a partner that's got the industrial expertise, knows your vertical, understands and talks your language, so that when you're sitting in that conference room with them, they are truly helping you be a better business in the world that you're in, and that you can gain and benefit from the efficiencies that arise from using the system, and that you're not just using another brand new shiny cloud-based system. So those are two types of different goals. Understand what that is, but ultimately, you want to find a partner with the right type of experience for the goals that you have. And then that's how you can achieve the outcomes that you want.
Okay, AJ, thank you. So Nancy, how can customers find the right partner to best fit their organization and project?
Well, I'll be additive here, I think, because I agree with everything that Jay and AJ have said so far. One thing that I've found over the years that tends to drive success in finding a partner is looking at the partner as a partner, not in a vendor relationship. Like, really, you want to be able to co-create with that partner and have some trust. There has to be mutual trust. And one of the ways that I've seen of late that we've been trying to achieve this is by building commercial models that wrap around outcomes from the program. As I said earlier, you parcel off a piece of work so that it creates cost reduction, so that you can then in turn take that cost and fund the next release of your program, that type of thing. And it kind of adds on to what's been said earlier, is trying to keep it small and realistic, and get the value, unlock the value, and ensure that your team is using it. And having that partnership with your partner is the critical success factor for me.
Okay, thank you. And if I could just add something, it's been my experience as a volunteer in the user communities for the last dozen or so years that I have given a lot of references to end user customers in those communities. Because in the communities, whether it's, the Doug community, which is sponsoring this event, or the new community, communities.dynamics.com from Microsoft, you can go up there and you can interface with other people that are just like you, trying to use the same products, trying to implement the same workloads, and have that conversation. Who did you use? How did they do? And how did you get this done? And I think that'll put you much farther ahead.
Rick, do you think there's time for one more thing in there?
Absolutely,
I forgot to add something.
For sure.
Yeah, shop it a bit. I was going to point out too, a lot of times you don't think about this, but cultural fit can be just as important when you're finding a partner. Yeah. We often talk about it when you're in the job market, right? Or employers want to hire employees who are good cultural fit. Employees want to find somebody work at a company where they fit into the culture. Same is true of a partner. It's going to be a tough ride. At some point in that implementation process, things are going to get tough. You're going to get mad. It's going to be stressful. It's a lot easier if you're in it with somebody that understands your language, understands how you operate, and you've got somebody that you generally like. So I think that may not be the first and the most important thing, but among your parameters of choice, I think one of them should also be, does that partner fit within our culture, or are we just never going to get along? If that relationship is a vendor relationship, like Nancy pointed out, and not a partner relationship, it's not going to be as successful. And thanks for letting me chime in with that one extra bit.
Absolutely, AJ, anytime. So I want to thank the panel today. It was an outstanding conversation. And I'd just like to get a closing remark from each of you for our audience. Let's start with you, Nancy.
I'm so happy that I was able to speak here today and share some knowledge with AJ and Jay. I hope you guys found it very valuable, and I really look forward to answering any questions that you're going to have.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, AJ.
Like Nancy, I'm looking forward to any questions that our audience has. Once again, I want to thank DynamicsCon, the Dynamics user group. I'm thrilled that not only are we doing our traditional sessions, but now we have this Microsoft Customer Success Day. I think it's a real opportunity for Microsoft's user group or Microsoft's user base to communicate directly with the technology provider, the publisher, in ways that are not always possible. So this is great. Jay, if you're taking feedback to your team, I hope you take the feedback that we should do this all the time. This is absolutely.
I agree. Jay, over to you for closing remarks.
Well, and I appreciate the feedback, AJ. Thank you. And I would say this, that when Microsoft talks about its mission statement, it's for the customers out there, which is empower every customer, every person on the planet to achieve more, and that's with partners. And so you got to make sure that you're finding that right person. So together, that customer Microsoft partner, triumvirate will deliver the value that you're looking for.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, AJ. And I hope everybody who's listening out there can join us for our Q&A. We're going to talk more about, planning for the future, building your roadmap. We'll talk more about working with ISVs, and we'll answer your questions about finding the right partners, project planning, sequencing, workloads, anything you have for this group. I think it'll be a great opportunity to go one-on-one. So again, Panel, thank you for your time, and we'll be talking to you soon about what's going on in the world of Microsoft partners.